The palace thought the Thailand story was dead. They were wrong. Fresh evidence has surfaced that makes the £90,000 redaction look like a cover-up for something far worse. Internal memos, leaked itineraries, and testimony from former royal protection officers are now painting a picture that officials have spent 2 decades trying to erase. Here's what has people alarmed this week. Behind those 16 missing pages from the 2004 Royal Visits Committee meeting, there are rumored to be detailed expense breakdowns from Andrew's trips to Southeast Asia. Not just flights and hotels. Itemized bills. Entertainment expenses. Security logs showing gaps. Time periods where Andrew's official schedule simply goes blank. The timing of these trips keeps coming up. Between 2001 and 2011, Andrew made multiple visits to Thailand as the UK's special trade representative. These were taxpayer-funded missions. Official government business. And yet, according to rumours and speculation from multiple former staffers who have spoken on condition of anonymity, the trips followed a disturbing pattern. Andrew would arrive with an official delegation. Meetings would be scheduled. Then, for stretches of 48 to 72 hours, he would disappear from the official itinerary. His protection officers knew where he was. The bills prove it. But the public schedule simply read, private time, or personal engagements. No details. No accountability. One former Foreign Office aide, speaking to investigative journalists years later, described the arrangements as calculated and deeply troubling. Hotels were booked under aliases. Security was told to maintain distance. And the requests made to local concierge services were, in the aide's words, not the kind you'd expect from someone representing the crown. This is where the 40 Escorts allegation originates. Royal historian Andrew Loney has repeatedly cited sources claiming that during one 4-day stay at a 5-star Bangkok hotel, as many as 40 women were logged entering and exiting Andrew's suite. The logs themselves have never been made public. The hotel has never confirmed or denied. But multiple witnesses, security staff, hotel employees, even other guests, have described seeing a revolving door of young women throughout Andrew's stay. At the time, Whitehall officials quietly raised concerns. Internal emails, some of which have been partially leaked over the years, show that senior diplomats were alarmed by the optics and the reputational risk. One memo reportedly described Andrew's behavior as reckless and warned that it could blow back catastrophically if details ever became public. They were right to worry, because it was not just Thailand. Andrew's pattern of overseas behavior during this period was consistently problematic. In Russia, he stayed at lavish hotels far beyond what his official role justified. In China, he mingled with oligarchs and fixers whose backgrounds raised immediate red flags with intelligence services. In Spain, his travel expenses were so excessive that Treasury officials demanded explanations, but Thailand was different. Thailand was where the behavior crossed a line that even his most loyal defenders struggled to justify, which leads to the question no one in the Cabinet Office wants asked. If the £90,000 budget discussion was just routine accounting, why redact 16 pages? Why remove entire sections about specific trips? And why now, 20 years later, does the mere mention of those travel records cause such panic? One possibility keeps surfacing in private conversations among royal correspondents and investigative journalists. The missing pages are rumored to contain not just financial records, but detailed security reports. Logs that document exactly where Andrew went, who he met, and what protection officers observed. These reports, according to speculation, were flagged internally as sensitive not because of national security, but because of personal conduct, and if those reports ever saw daylight, they would confirm what many have long suspected. That Andrew's role as trade envoy was not just poorly managed, It was actively exploited for personal indulgence, at public expense, with full knowledge of officials who chose to look the other way. Stay with us, because what comes next reveals just how deep the cover-up goes, and who else knew about Andrew's darkest secret. The palace strategy has always been simple. Deny. Delay. Let the story fade, but this time, witnesses are refusing to disappear. Over the past 3 years, a quiet but steady stream of former royal staff, diplomatic aides, and hotel employees have begun speaking to journalists. Not for money. Not for fame. But because, in their words, the lies have gone on long enough. One former royal protection officer, who served Andrew during his Southeast Asia trips, described the experience as the most uncomfortable assignment of my career. In a rare interview with a British investigative outlet, the officer, who cannot be named due to legal restrictions, said Andrew's behavior overseas was an open secret among security teams. We were told to keep our distance, to give him privacy. But we knew what was happening. Everyone knew. The officer went on to describe specific incidents that, even now, remain difficult to verify, but align disturbingly with other accounts. Late-night arrivals. Women brought in through side entrances. Payments made in cash to avoid paper trails. And instructions from senior palace aides to keep things quiet. It wasn't just about protecting him physically. It was about protecting him from scrutiny. This culture of silence extended far beyond Andrew's security detail. Diplomatic staff stationed in Bangkok during the mid-2000s have described feeling pressured to downplay Andrew's behavior in official reports. One former embassy aide told reporters that any mention of Andrew's extracurricular activities was quietly removed from dispatches before they reached London. We were told it wasn't relevant to his trade mission. But that was rubbish. His behavior was directly undermining Britain's reputation. And we all knew it. Then there are the hotel staff. In 2018, a former employee at one of Bangkok's most exclusive hotels spoke anonymously to a tabloid, describing Andrew's visits as legendary among staff for all the wrong reasons. The employee claimed that Andrew's entourage would book entire floors, that special arrangements were made for guests to come and go without passing through main reception, and that gratuities were paid in cash to ensure discretion. He wasn't the only VIP we hosted. But he was the only one who operated like that. It felt orchestrated. These accounts, while unverified in court, form a consistent pattern. A pattern that matches exactly what investigators and journalists have pieced together from financial records, leaked emails, and off-the-record briefings. And then there is the Jeffrey Epstein connection. During the same period Andrew was making these trips to Thailand, he was also maintaining his friendship with Epstein. Flight logs place Andrew on Epstein's private jet multiple times between 2001 and 2006. Some of those flights were to destinations known for their lenient attitudes toward illicit activities. Virginia Giuffre, who accused Andrew of sexual assault, the claim he has consistently denied and which was settled out of court with no admission of wrongdoing, has stated publicly that Epstein's network operated internationally. That powerful men were provided with access, introductions, and opportunities in multiple countries. The question investigators continue to ask is whether Andrew's Thailand trips overlapped with Epstein's network in any way. There is no direct evidence linking the two. But the timelines, the behavior patterns, and the level of secrecy surrounding both raise uncomfortable questions that have never been satisfactorily answered. By 2010, the whispers had become too loud to ignore. A leaked US diplomatic cable described Andrew as cocky and rude during an official engagement in Kyrgyzstan. American diplomats privately expressed concern about his conduct and questioned whether he was fit to represent British interests abroad. That cable, published by WikiLeaks, was embarrassing. But it was also a warning. Whitehall officials knew that if more details about Andrew's overseas behavior leaked, especially the Thailand allegations, it would be catastrophic. Not just for Andrew. For the entire institution. So in 2011, Andrew was quietly removed from his role as trade envoy. The official explanation was vague. A review of priorities. A natural transition. But behind closed doors, it was an intervention. Andrew's travel expenses, his associations, and his behavior had become indefensible. Senior royals, including Prince Charles, reportedly pushed for his removal after being briefed on the mounting risks. The role was abolished. Andrew retreated from public duties. And for nearly a decade, it seemed the strategy had worked, until the Epstein scandal exploded in 2019. Suddenly, every aspect of Andrew's past was under renewed scrutiny. The trips, the expenses, the associations, the allegations, and the missing documents from 2004 became, once again, a focal point, because if those documents contained proof, detailed logs, expense reports, witness statements, then the redaction was not about privacy. It was about protection. And the question now is whether that protection would end the story. Don't go anywhere. They miscalculated because in part they did not anticipate we reveal the final was the growing movement for transparency, and why Andrew's the rise of investigative journalism funded by the public, and the fact that in 2026, secrets have a shorter shelf life than ever before. Here is what is happening right now. Freedom of information campaigners are preparing legal challenges to force the full release of the 2004 Royal Visits Committee documents. They argue that the royal family exemption is being misused to shield misconduct rather than protect legitimate privacy. If they succeed, those 16 missing pages will become public, and that terrifies the palace, because rumors and speculation suggest those pages contain more than just financial figures. They reportedly include detailed logs from royal protection officers, logs that document specific dates, times, locations, and observations from Andrew's Thailand trips. If those logs confirm even a fraction of the allegations that have circulated for years, the fallout will be seismic. One legal expert, speaking to the press about the ongoing case, said, "The exemption for royal information was never intended to cover up potential misconduct. If these documents show taxpayer money was used to facilitate behavior that violated ethical or legal norms, the public has a right to know. The pressure is not just coming from campaigners. Members of Parliament have begun asking pointed questions." In recent weeks, several MPs have raised concerns about the use of public funds during Andrew's tenure as trade envoy. They want audits. They want transparency. And they want answers about why, 2 decades later, the government is still fighting to keep basic expense records hidden. If this was truly just about £90,000 in travel costs, it would have been released without issue, one MP said in a recent interview. The fact that it was redacted so heavily suggests there is something far more damaging in those files. There is also the international dimension. US authorities, who have conducted extensive investigations into Jeffrey Epstein's network, are rumored to have access to information about Epstein's international associates. While no charges have been filed against Andrew, and he has not been accused of any crimes in the US, investigators reportedly have communications, flight logs, and witness statements that place him in Epstein's orbit during key periods. If any of that information overlaps with Andrew's Thailand trips, or if US investigators decide to share intelligence with UK authorities, it could reopen questions that Andrew has spent years trying to close. The settlement with Virginia Giuffre in 2022, while resolving that specific civil case, did nothing to address the broader pattern of behavior. It was a financial transaction, not an exoneration. And it certainly did not erase the allegations that continued to swirl around his overseas conduct. For the royal family, This is a crisis with no clear exit. Andrew has already been stripped of his military titles and royal patronages. He has been effectively exiled from public life. But that has not stopped the questions. If anything, the redactions and the secrecy have only intensified scrutiny. King Charles, who is acutely aware of the damage Andrew has caused to the monarchy's reputation, is said to be deeply frustrated. Sources close to the king describe him as determined to modernize the institution and restore public trust. But Andrew's ongoing scandals make that nearly impossible. There are even rumors and speculation that Charles is considering taking the extraordinary step of formally distancing the crown from Andrew's legal and financial troubles. What that would look like in practice remains unclear. But it would send an unmistakable message. The institution is willing to sacrifice one of its own to survive. And then there is public opinion. Polls consistently show that a majority of Britons believe Andrew has not been held fully accountable. They see the redactions as proof of a two-tier system, one set of rules for royals, another for everyone else. That perception is corrosive. And it feeds a growing sentiment that the monarchy, as currently structured, is incompatible with modern transparency and accountability. So, the question now is a simple one. How much longer can the palace keep those 16 pages hidden? How much longer can they rely on legal exemptions and administrative errors to avoid scrutiny? Because the truth, as Andrew himself once said in his disastrous BBC interview, has a way of coming out. The witnesses are talking. The documents are being challenged. The pressure is mounting. And for Andrew, the reckoning he has managed to delay for 2 decades is finally closing in. If this story shocked you, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell for more explosive revelations. The mainstream media won't tell you this, but we will.